Good morning, Team Alabama. We are going to begin reading in Hidden Figures on page 22. Please find it now. It was in Farmville that Dorothy met Howard Vaughn, a tall, charismatic bachelor who worked as a bellman at various luxury hotels. And I asked you to go ahead and add charismatic to your vocab in our last video for your vocab. Howard traveled south to hotels in Florida in the winter and north to hotels in upstate New York and Vermont in the summer. In between jobs, he always returned to Farmville where his family lived. Dorothy and Howard fell in love, married, and settled in Farmville. She attended the Beulah African Methodist Episcopal Church with her family and played piano on Sunday mornings. She had found steady work and a fulfilling life in the small town, but then World War II started, and bringing with it more job opportunities and the hope for even better times ahead. War work. In the early 1940s, the United States government spread the word far and wide that it was hiring. Bulletins listing civil service jobs, non-military government jobs, plastered the walls at the local post offices. And it was on a trip to Farmville Post Office during the spring of 1943 that Dorothy saw a notice for the laundry job at Camp Pickett. But as she glanced over the other bulletins, the word mathematics caught her eye. She looked more closely and learned that the federal agency in Hampton, Virginia was looking for women to fill a number of mathematical jobs at a facility specializing in the development of airplanes. Dorothy assumed the bulletin was meant for the eyes of the white, well-to-do students at the all-female state teachers' colleges in Farmville. It never occurred to her that the Langley Memorial Aeronautical Laboratory would accept an application from an African-American woman. But during World War II, the United States asked for help from all of its citizens, workers, black, white, and from every other ethnic background. Women as well as men were needed, and black newspapers spread the word about war jobs. Because where were the men in World War II when that was going on? Okay, they were off fighting. And so all of these positions are open and they need women's help to fill them, and anyone of any ethnic background. In the first week of May of 1943, the Norfolk Journal and Guide published an article that caught Dorothy's eye, "Paving the Way for Women Engineers." Read the headline. The accompanying photo showed 11 well-dressed African-American women in front of Hampton Institute's Bemis Laboratory, graduates of Engineering for Women, a war training class. Maybe there were opportunities for African-American women who loved numbers. Dorothy decided to fill out an application. So there were jobs, and very good jobs. In Dorothy Vaughn's world, there were black jobs and there were good black jobs. Sorting laundry, making beds in white people's houses, working in tobacco plants, those were black jobs. Owning a barber shop or a small business, working in a post office or on a railroad, those were good black jobs. Being a teacher or a preacher, a doctor or a lawyer, those were very good black jobs. But the job at the aeronautical laboratory was something entirely new. Something so unusual that it hadn't been dreamed of yet, and it was an opportunity that had the potential to change the future of Dorothy's family. Even if the war ended in 6 months or a year, earning a much higher salary for the brief time could help her save money for her children's education. That spring, Dorothy Vaughn filled out and mailed 2 job applications, one to work at Camp Pickett's laundry and one to work as a mathematician at Langley. Okay, so there's a great fact. Dorothy Vaughn sent in 2 applications to work at Camp Pickett and to work at Langley. The application for the laundry job was straightforward. There was such a demand for laundry workers that she couldn't imagine not being hired. The other application asked for Dorothy's work history, references, schools attended, languages spoken. One question asked, "How soon could you be ready to start work?" She filled in the blank, 48 hours. If she got the job, she could be ready to go in 48 hours because a chance like that might never come around again. Chapter 4, A New Beginning. In the fall of 1943, Dorothy Vaughan started the school year teaching math at R.R. Moten, the black high school in Farmville, Virginia, just as she had for the past 12 years. She loved being a teacher, and she dedicated herself to helping her students as much as she could while waiting for a response to the job applications that she had submitted a few months earlier. Dorothy had plenty to keep her busy. The high school had been built for 180 students, but more than 300 now squeezed into the classrooms. She taught algebra in the school's overcrowded auditorium with 2 other classes taking place in the same space. After school, she tutored students who needed more help, and she spent time working with the school's parent-teacher association. Outside of school, Dorothy was a founding board member of the Farmville chapter of the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, a civil rights group. What can we do to win the war? World War II was never far from anyone's mind. That fall, in the high school's 4-H club, made care packages for departing servicemen and hosted a community discussion titled, "What Can We Do to Win the War?" The school sold war stamps to raise money for the military, and the company held going-away parties and feasts, held going-away parties and feasts for the young men heading off to the front lines of combat. Dorothy updated her classes and added a unit called Wartime Mathematics, where she taught students how to use math to follow a household budget and manage wartime ration books, coupon books that allowed each family only a limited amount of various supplies such as flour and sugar. Okay, where did we hear about ration books before? You're right, in the Diary of Anne Frank. Okay, so add that as a vocab word, ration books, or coupon books that allowed each family a limited amount of various supplies. Okay, bottom of page 27. Then, in November, a letter from the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics finally arrived. You are hereby appointed mathematician, grade P1, with the pay at the rate of $2,000 per annum. Okay, so she's getting $2,000 a year to teach, $2,000 a year to go work at Langley. The letter said, that was more than twice the $850 annual salary she earned as a teacher. So she only earned $850 for the year to teach. When Dorothy thought about the civil service jobs that she had applied for, she had mixed feelings. She was a wife and a mother of 4 children. The job at the Langley Laboratory was a full-time position, 6 days a week. If she accepted the job, she would have to move 4 hours away from her children, and she'd only be able to come back home to see them on holidays. But Dorothy knew this was a very good job, one that would allow her to help her family, so she accepted. She shared the news with her family and friends, and her students were sad to see their teacher, Mrs. Vaughn, leave the school. The townspeople found out about Dorothy's decision when they read a notice in the Farmville section of the Norfolk Journal and Guide. It read, Mrs. D.J. Vaughn, instructor in mathematics at the high school for several years, has accepted a position at Langley Field, Virginia. Dorothy didn't like long goodbyes. I'll be back at Christmas, she told her 4 young children. She was sad to leave them, but she knew that her children would be well cared for at home in Farmville. They lived in a rambling Victorian house with their grandparents, and they were surrounded by dozens of aunts and uncles and cousins. Dorothy's children would miss their mother, but their daily schedules wouldn't change much. For 12 years, Dorothy had walked out the front door and turned left to walk to the school where she worked. But on that morning, she left her new job at Langley Memorial Aeronautical Laboratory. She turned in the opposite direction, and she didn't look back, leaving home. Dorothy Vaughn rode a Greyhound bus 137 miles from Farmville to Newport News, Virginia. There's a great fact. She took the bus to get to she took a Greyhound bus to get to Farmville, from Farmville to Newport News. While on the bus, she had plenty of time to think. What would it be like to work with white people? Would she sit side by side with young women like the ones in the State Teachers College? How would she endure the time away from her children and family? Mile after mile, Dorothy watched the gentle hills rising and falling outside her window. She refused to feel any self-doubt. Her country needed her, and she was ready and eager to do her part to support the war effort and her family. Okay, we're going to stop there today, Team Alabama. Please add a few facts about Dorothy and what she decided, her new opportunities, you should have a good 5 facts from today as well. Have a great rest of your day.